everyone, and welcome back to another session of CCNA Lab. In this lab, we're going to cover OSPF. It stands for the Open Shortest Path First. And the OSPF protocol is one of a family of IP routing protocol and is an interior gateway protocol for the internet. And it's used to distribute IP routing information throughout a single autonomous system in an IP network. Now, the OSPF protocol is a link state routing protocol, which means that the routers exchange topology information with their nearest neighbor. So this router, if it's running OSPF, is going to build adjacencies and it's going to have information of the neighboring routes. The topology information is flooded throughout the autonomous system so that every router within the AS has a complete picture of the topology of the AS. Now, this picture is then used to calculate end-to-end path throughout the autonomous system, normally using a variant of the Dijkstra algorithm. Therefore, in a link state routing protocol, the next hop address to which data is forwarded is determined by choosing the best end-to-end path to the eventual destination. In this lab, I'm going to show you how to do exactly just that. We're going to configure this network with OSPF using a single area. Now, this is a single area. This is a basic lab where we're going to configure OSPF for a single area. And in future labs, we're going to cover multiple area configurations. Now, without further ado, let's get to configure this router and enable OSPF so these routers can actually communicate and build up their routing tables with the adjacent routes. Now, here is some information that we're going to use to configure our router. Now, so first we're going to be using the OSPF process ID 1 for all of the networks, for all the routers, and this is what we're going to do for this specific router. So for router 1, we're going to enable OSPF using the network command with exact IP match. On the second router, we're going to enable OSPF using the network command based on the subnet mask. And on the third router, which is this one right here, we're going to enable OSPF using the interface command, meaning we're going to use the interface command, put those interfaces in that specific area. And for the fourth router, we're going to enable OSPF on all interfaces with a single network command. So this is just to show you how you can apply OSPF different ways on different routers. Now let's get to it. Let's go ahead and start our configuration on router 1. Just before you do that, you want to make sure you check the current information on the route. So we're going to run a command IP interface brief so we can see that router 1 has gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0 has an IP address of 10.1.1.1. So this interface, we're gonna be configuring OSPF on this interface. You can also see that this router has a loopback address of 1.1.1.1. Now, loopback addresses are really vital to configuring your interfaces when using OSPF. In fact, Cisco suggests using them whenever you configure OSPF on a router for stability purposes. Now, loopback interfaces are logical interfaces, which means they're vital software-only interfaces, not actual physical router interfaces. A big reason we use loopback interfaces with OSPF configuration is because they ensure that an interface is always active and available for OSPF processes. And secondly, loopback interfaces also come in very handy when you're doing diagnostic for OSPF configuration. And you need to understand that if you don't configure a loopback interface on a router, the highest active IP address on a router would become that router's RID, which is router ID, during the boot up. So you want to make sure when you are configuring OSPF, you have a loopback address. So now we have that. We're just going to make sure if we have any routes, and as you can see, this is only showing those routes that are directly connected to this router. So let's go ahead and global configuration. Now command to configure a IP routing protocol, you want to type in router OSPF 1, and then you want to put the network. Right, so for the first router, we have to enable OSPF using the network command with the exact IP. So as you can see over here, our IP address on interface 0/0/0 is 10.1.1.1, and because we're doing exact IP, we don't need to put a subnet mask. And after that, we're going to select area 0. Now if you don't know what command comes after the network, you can always put in a question mark, and as you can see, it says the only option that you have is area, so you want to select area. You can do another question mark to see what comes after that, and all you have to do after that is put in an OSPF area ID in a decimal value. So here we have, you also want to configure the loopback address on this router. Right? So you want to go ahead and do that here, 0.0 area 0. We're going to exit out of here, and now we're going to just confirm our configuration. So show running config. Oops. As you can see that here, the router OS, we were running router OSPF1, log adjacencies, we have the network 10.1.1.1, and with the subnet mask of 0000 and the area 0. Now, so that's that. Let's go ahead and configure router 2. Now, remember, now what you can also do before you watch this video, you can, if you have Packet Tracer, and if you don't, I highly recommend you download it from Cisco's website. It's a very handy tool, and you can do a lot of amazing things with Packet Tracer. You can run simulations to see how your packets are forwarded within a network, and I can show you that in further labs. But the point blank is, if you're doing CCNA certification, you have to get your hands dirty on Packet Tracer. There's no way around it, and there's nothing that can replace hands-on experience. All right, so we're on router 2. Let's just check some basic configuration on this router. Let's do a show IP interface brief, so we can see that gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0 has an IP address of 10.1.1.2, and gigabit 0/0/1 we have 10.1.2.1 IP address, and the loopback address is 2.2.2.2. So let's go ahead and configure this router for OSPF. And for this router number 2, what we want to do is we want to enable OSPF using the network command based on the subnet mask. So before we do that, let's check this. Let's just confirm our, you can see we have a CIDR 24, which is 25.25.25.0. So we have 24 bits reserved for the network and 8 bits reserved for the host. But we're going to go ahead and just confirm that, make sure we have the yeah, so you can see interface 0/0/0 has an IP address of 10.1.1.2 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. So let's go ahead and continue with our configuration. We're gonna run router OSPF, and if you're running a command and you're not sure, you can always press tab to complete the command, or you can put in a question mark to see what options are available after you type in router. So let's go ahead and OSPF 1, and we're gonna use network command based on subnet mask. So let's go ahead and select the network. So the network we have here is 10.1.2, right? So three octets for the network. So this is our network IP. I'm gonna do 10.1.2.0, and we're gonna use a wildcard mask or an inverse mask, which is 0.255.255.255. And if you don't know what a wildcard mask is, I can make another video, but this is not the time to go into it. Select area 0, area 0, and there you have it. All right. Now another thing you can do if you want to go back to your, so as you can see, it's already building adjacencies, right? It has picked up the first neighbor, which is 1.1.1.1, which is router number 1. All right. So let's go ahead and confirm our configurations. Show run. Here we are. So router OSPF 1, and we're using the network 10.0.0.0. Subnet mask is 0.255.255 and area 0. Show IP route. As you can see, through the OSPF protocol, it has picked up this route, right? Let's show IP interface. So, let's show IP OSPF interface. So this tells us gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0 is up, line protocol is up, and the IP internet address is 10.1.1.2, area 0, process ID is 1, and your router ID is 2.2.2, which is our loopback address on this router, and it has information for both the interfaces. And this interface is also up, line protocol is up, with the same IP address, with the same router ID. So our job on this router is done as well. Let's go ahead and configure router number 3. All right, again, we're just gonna, guys, you need to get used to these commands. These are basic commands, but you have to be able to read these commands. Show IP route, you want show IP interface brief, shows you all your interfaces, shows you the IP addresses, shows you the status, are they up, are they down, and then you want to run show run. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0 has an IP address of 10.1.3.1, and interface 0.1 has 10.1.2.2. So let's go ahead and configure this router, but remember that on router number 3 we're going to enable OSPF using the interface command, right? And I'm going to show you in just a second how we're going to do that. So here come in interface, you got 2 interfaces, so G 0/0, and here you're going to put IP OSPF area 0. Oops, what did I do wrong? Yeah, hold on. So OSPF 1, this is the ID, area 0, right? And we're going to do that for, we're gonna exit interface. Do that for the gigabit 0/1 as well. Again, we're gonna run this same command, and now we're gonna run that for the loop back address as well. Right, so for that we're just gonna select our loopback interface, which is very simple. Just type in interface loopback 0, and same command here, IP OSPF1 area 0. I'm gonna exit, and we're just going to confirm our configurations. Yeah, so if you want to see what commands are available, again, just put in question mark, interface, and now you can see that our gigabit 0/0 is up with an IP address of 10.1.3.1, area 0, process ID 1, router ID 3, and it is running OSPF. Same goes for the other, and as you can see, our loopback is also up. Internet address is 3.3.3 with area 0, process ID 1, and you can see the cost over here. Cost is 1. We're gonna do another show IP interface. Well, actually, let's check the routes. Show IP route. And now you can see that router 3 has picked up 2 routes via OSPF. This one right here and this one right here. So it has learned the network 10.1.2.1 and has also learned 10.1.1.0 via 10.1.2.1. Right, and so that's that. Show IP OSPF, and let's do brief. Oops, not brief. I meant to do interface neighbor. Right, so now you can see that it has a neighbor ID here, and neighbor ID is 2.2.2.2, which is the loopback address of this router. Right, 2.2.2.2. All right, so I believe we're done here. Let me just confirm. Show IP interface brief. Show IP OSPF. Let's check the route. Okay, show run. We're gonna make sure. Okay, this is good. OSPF 1, and this interface is also running. So you can see, if you want to confirm your interfaces, what if they're running OSPF, just do a show run command and come down here to interface and see that it's running OSPF 1. So we are good to go on router 3. It's connected. So we configured router 1, router 2, router 3, and now we're going to configure router 4, and this is by far the easiest one because we're going to enable OSPF on all interfaces using a single network command. So let me show how that is done. Router OSPF 1 network. So this basically means we're going to allow all ones, which means we're going to allow every single IP. We're going to apply this on every single interface on this router. So as you can see, this router has gone up. It has already built up OSPF adjacencies. Let's just confirm that. Show IP OSPF. Let's see, we want to run a interface. So as you can see, gigabit Ethernet 0/0 is up line protocol is up, internet ID is 10.1.3.2, area is 0, process ID is 1, and router ID is 4.4.4.4, which is a loopback address on this router. Right? So there you have it. And you can see this is neighbor count is 1, adjacent neighbor count is 1, adjacent with neighbor 3.3.3.3. Now if you remember, 3.3.3.3 is a loopback address on this router, right? So now it's building adjacencies, and it's building up its topology, its routing table with all the relevant routing tables. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any question, feel free to DM me.